What's up, people? This is The Option. This is episode 48. You ask and you shall receive, because for me, I've got to give the people what they want.
She'll be proud.
Bryan McDermand, what's good, man?
Not much. How you doing today?
I'm all right. A long night, but no regrets. You know, got good genes. Turned my big 50 last week.
Yeah, Blade, happy birthday.
So the cool thing is, before we got on the podcast, we were talking about really cool volleyball wives and girlfriends, and like we were watching some of these AVPs, and it's really nice to be able to do like a breakdown, you know, of the gameplay or volleyball psychology momentum with someone in the house of the same thing. And you're mentioning she wanted to get back into it, so I'm gonna start that way. Because I do whatever I want.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We were talking about different commentators right now for the AVP, and Kristen and I have both played open level, and she's had a much better career, and she's still training a little bit. And so when we're watching, a lot of times what we're doing is, you know, we're looking at both sides and what they're doing and assessing. If we were in the situation where we were down, like what's the other team doing well? What would we try to do to stop that? If we see the other team struggling with something, like what are things they can maybe do to try and right the ship? So a lot of times we're watching. It's one of my favorite parts this season with the AVP. Well, obviously they'd like to have the fans in the stands. Having the camera and the mic in the box has been so cool, because we train our own kids at our program. You know, we're always, every team you're playing is different. They've got different strengths and weaknesses. And we want to make sure that we're aware in real time, what is that team doing? What do they want to do? And how do we make it more difficult for them? So to be able to show them how some of the best coaches in the world kind of approach it the same way with the world-class athletes, that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it is a cool experience. My girlfriend, same thing, longtime player. You know, won 2 state championships at West Virginia high school in West Virginia, Parkersburg. When ended up getting recruited to Harvard to play volleyball and tennis.
Nice.
Actually, he's been into beach volleyball longer than me. I've been an indoor guy for 21 years, a player for 30, and we it's small world how we were in the same gym and crossed paths probably more than one time, that we'll get into later. And so let's talk about the weekend a little bit. We on my other podcast, it's Sports Debate Tuesday, one of the best commentators, we were like, who's the best new person on the broadcast team? And you know, Misty May was very good. Dane Blanton's always good. This guy, oh my goodness, Matty Bishop, don't know where he came from. Obviously a local guy, because I don't think you get into that without knowing someone. But
Sure.
Yeah, they ain't pick his name out of a hat from the Midwest, right? So but mine was Jeff Alzina. Mine was for reasons. What's yours? What's your and who did you like in the broadcast team? You can go random.
Yeah, I mean, it was just good to hear from Misty again. You know, it's been a long time since she's been in the spotlight, and you know, it's crazy to think it's been almost 4 years, really. I know she did a couple appearances as a player and still did very well, even though it was clear she was kind of taking a break from it. But, you know, everyone brings their own flavor. I think it was really, I'm big fan of everything she did. And it was just good to kind of hear what she's doing a little bit and her perspective on things. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Misty May. Jeff Alzina is more my kind of guy, because he's about technique and about when the game is tight. Does somebody fall back onto something that they remember, or do they fall back on something that they remember that doesn't work? You know, like someone gets aced maybe because they're facing this way, right? Doing this, both arms are this way, so now everything is facing upwards, where if they're doing this, if they face their platform, this one goes down, this one goes up, this one goes down. So if they get aced on their left shoulder, do they step in and midline it, or do they fix that? Do they angle their platform, or do they get into this kind of mode that we've seen at all levels? You don't expect to see on the professional level, but there you have it. And that's one of the things I liked about Jeff. Like, he tells you what's gonna happen 2 plays from now, and like the second play, it happens, and I'm like.
He's our Tony Romo, you know. He
really is, dude. He really is. He's and he's been everywhere. If you looked at his title, his title was you know how some people are like, they have their Instagram address or their whatever. His was coached at every level.
Yeah. I remember when I was still competing and being a total volley dork, like I'd be looking at the qualifiers and then trying to find people. I remember specifically when he was still playing, when we were going out to Huntington Beach and reading his bio, and I was like, man, this guy it's not what doesn't he do? Like you say, he's done a lot of things both on and out of the volleyball scene. So it was cool to see him coming back in.
Oh my God, I'm looking to see if I could actually find it, but nope. It's probably on his page. Yeah. So you have some things you wanted to introduce into the podcast. You had some stuff on your mind and we wanted to share, and I'm hoping, like, a lot of times I'm steering, but at any point you want to come in and chime in. The floor is yours on that. Okay. We met. Well, not met, but we crossed paths. You played for a school called Newbury with that, and at the time, you want to talk about right place, right time, and a lot to do with you. You got all tournament team, NECVA, all the way to the finals. Played Vassar, upset Nazareth. Was there any point in that tournament, like somewhere in the middle of it, that you're telling your team and telling yourselves, we're going to be NECVA champs?
We believed we were going for a ring. I mean, that team was a gritty team from day one. I mean, to give perspective, we were us and Leslie were the only two programs. We didn't even have a gym on campus. So we were going to Helena College, which was a mile down the road. It was a Greek Orthodox school. It was like a high school gym. But let me tell you, when you got 500 people in that place, it was loud. It was boom. We had such a nice home court advantage.
You did.
But we were, 1,000 kids, small school. I mean, it was the joke was who's Newbury. We kind of said ourselves. So we had people that balled, and Coach Dave did a really good job of recruiting. He started with Ken McNeely 2 years before me. Kind of took the team from, I think they lost almost 55 games over 3 years in a row. And he got hired at 22. He gets one big 6'6" recruit. They win a couple games, get a bunch of other players, Jay Nev, Eric Kostansky, win, I think, 30 games the next season. And then they brought in me and Mark Thomas. And then the following year, Matt Talamontes, who I think finished third all-time in NCAA. So we had the parts. We didn't have the biggest size, but the coaches did a good job. We ran a pretty complex offense that year and had a good balance of veteran leadership and some young arms that could do a lot. Our second team with Josh Aberly and James Beck were deep. So some of our practices were more competitive, I would say, than 80% of our matches. So, we always believed, we knew we were close. We lost to Vassar in 5 at their senior night. So we knew we were close. And then the Nazareth game we were down 13-10 in the 5th and gutted it out with a 5-0 run.
And with a classic roof. That thing, there's something cool about volleyball. Like when someone hits a ball really hard, but the blocking technique is right. Yeah, you want your ceiling ball. You're not gonna get it on the spike. You're getting this one on the roof. It's that sound. Boom.
So for context, my best friend Josh Aberley, I just stood up at his wedding. He was a freshman that year, and I was starting at op, but a lot of times he was 6'1" with over a 40-inch vertical. And literally, when we had a big outside, we knew we were going to feed and we had set point, coach would sub me out. And you could feel the energy, like all the kids like on the team knew, like, oh, Josh is going to get him. And it was like that ball got set and you saw Josh line him up and you just knew. And that was goosebumps. That was one of the coolest moments of our season, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I stuck around for that. At that time, I was the head coach at City College, trying to turn Harlem kids into volleyball players.
We're trying. They showed up.
Well, yeah, we qualified, right? There's only 16 spots, and we played Vassar first. Games. If you remember, games were up to 30 back then.
I remember.
Instead of 25.
My knees still feel it.
And something a lot of people won't remember was we were up 23-21 the first set and 24-18 the second set on Vassar. Nice. And you lose in 3. People don't remember that, but coaches remember that because my best player, Chris Avila, is a longtime stellar player, New York legend, got injured before the CUNY semifinals, and then I had an oppo in the middle who's 6'10", lefty, hits both hands. He penetrated on the ball. And then he comes to me and he shows me his hand. Coach, is this normal? Does this look right?
Yeah, I got one of those myself. I think most volleyball players got at least one digit a little off.
Yeah, so CUNY has their own channel on TV or whatever, and they were interviewing me, and they're like, "So who's your best player? Who's your best offensive player?" And I'm like, "Chris Avila's good player." And they're like, "How do you think he'll do this weekend?" I'm like, "Well, he's injured. He's not going to play." And they're like, "Well, who's up next?" I said, "My second best player, 10th in the nation in blocks per game because he can't teach height, Guy who was a little bit academically slow, but those are the ones you want to coach because they keep it simple. They ain't trying to grow a brain, and if you're at City College and you're in pre-med or you're in the engineering program or if you're in the Sophie Davis School of Medicine, you can't, the student definitely comes before the student athlete. So big up to that kid.
Sure.
I'm teasing him. But, and they're like, so how do you think he's going to do? I'm like, he's hurt too. And they're just like, okay, do we even finish the interview? And I'm like, do what you got to do, guys,
Look, you want your franchise players, but it takes more than two. I mean, you got to have people around them. That was what made Vassar obviously like Toli Machucci, Jekasenic setting, and then you had Gyunta. That libero was just an animal. I mean, they could have lost one or two players, and they still would have been in contention.
They did. If you remember, they ran a non-traditional offense at NECVA.
Yeah, I remember.
They I like John Penn. John Penn is like, listen, we don't have to stick an outside hitter in the middle. We're just gonna our 6'3" setter who's got like had like a 6'6" wingspan. They put the setter in the middle. I think they put who's the middle guy? The guy again,
Machucci.
Yeah, put him opposite. So when he's middle, he's hitting, and when the setter's front row, he's just blocking middle and setting out of the wings, and everybody's like, this ain't gonna work, and he's like, of course it's gonna work. The blocker you still have to move the middle blocker left and right, no one way or another. So sorry.
Well, the engine that made it go was the passing. Again, we were, I think, 5 of our guys jump served with pretty good location, and in 9 sets that season, we had 1 ace on them. I mean, they're you can run that offense when everyone's in system when the pass and sets there. And even if the pass was a little off, Johnny was going to clean it up. I mean, Johnny, not only was he super good, his IQ was through the roof. It wasn't, I think, 2 or 3 years later that he took a set off Gibb and Rosie at the Muskegon AVP. So
and that's
made me feel a little less bad about it.
And for the people listening,
guy. That's the worst part. I couldn't get mad about it.
No. And for the people listening, they're like, oh my God, you're in a podcast. Dude, why are you talking about D3 volleyball? Why? Because D3 volleyball, there's a lot of professional contracts, and Jonathan Penn got AVCA Coach of the Year. Okay. So that wasn't Division III Coach of the Year. That was for everything before there was a Division I, II, and III Coach of the Year. Okay. That's the second thing. Third, Vassar, when John Penn, I think, was an assistant there, he wasn't the head coach, is the only Division III program to make the EIVA finals. NYU made the semifinals in 2008, lost to Penn State, who won the whole thing. When they beat St. Francis, they knew, wait, our team's got legs because we never beat St. Francis. And Vassar, 1994, Brent Starks, an amazing oppo, made it to the EIVA finals. Coincidentally, lost to Penn State. Coincidentally, won the whole thing. Penn State beat UCLA in 5. And then the team that NYU lost to in the EIVA semifinals won the NCAAs as well. That was 2008 or 2009, or whatever have you.
When Anderson was still there.
Yeah, Matt Anderson, yeah. Just tough guy to stop, man. Tough guy. I mean, think about a guy that does everything with his left hand except play volleyball. It's ridiculous. He's the guy that his biggest dirty little secret is he's not right-handed. He's left-handed. He only plays right-handed volleyball. So
it's interesting.
Isn't it? So here it is. Here's the picture. Did I show you the picture yet? Here it is. Jeff Alzina. Got to do this just for fun. I just got to laugh. Where is it?
Nice.
Let's zoom that in. Listen, California is big on labels, okay? This guy's a triple. This guy's open. That guy just got his double. This guy's a 4-star coach. Look at that title.
Sums it up.
What kind of boss? What kind of boss's heading says volleyball coach on every level?
I hope his LinkedIn profile says that.
Oh, I hope so too. In fact, we got to start a hashtag VB coach on every level. And so this way it's identified as Jeff Alzina. So I wanted to delve into your past, and then I'm going to give you the steering wheel. I'm going to give you the floor as far as what's going on, because I want to talk about you have a volleyball beach volleyball program in Chicago, right?
Yep.
Tell me the name again. It's written here, but better coming from you.
Progression Beach Volleyball.
Progression Beach Volleyball. Nice. Progression beach volleyball.
Our goals simple. We want to make sure that every single kid gets the same opportunity for development, whether they're college bound. We got plenty of those kids. And then we've got kids that are, I was 5'5", 95 pounds with a size 12 shoe going into high school. So the kids that are more built like me, like we work with them too. Everyone gets the same coaches, the same system, and we cater the practices to what they need.
Yeah, we ain't trying to talk can't here, man. We're trying to talk about how. Ken's already there. It's about the how, and I really respect that. I noticed when this whole COVID thing hit, you had the opportunity on phase 4 to go big groups, but chose to go smaller groups, more personal attention. Is that COVID related, or was that because you were changing, or is there a change in your mission?
So when July hit and we were able to go to phase 4, I saw a lot of groups, and I heard, a lot of my kids, for context, they can play for other clubs. They can play other sports. Like, we schedule month to month. Typically when COVID hit, we reopened, we went week to week because I knew people's schedule was changing. I wanted to make sure that we could be flexible. That's something that we really try and separate ourselves by doing. So July hit and all my kids are starting to come into practice. They're back to 6 times a week. You got your high schools that are starting up their optional camps again. You got your clubs that are trying to recoup instead of the time that they had from March and April that they lost. They're trying to make that time up. And, the other thing is they were talking about there really wasn't a change in regards to the mitigation risk policies. People were not getting the sanitation opportunity. The enforcement of social distancing wasn't being done as much. So for me, I called the health department. I call them regularly to just kind of get their perspective on things. And I said, from the change of phase 3 to 4, was there anything from a health perspective, any research or anything that changed the stance on the social distancing, the safety protocols? And they said, no, to be honest, it's strictly economical. We had gotten the cases to drop a little bit. And so we were at a point where it wasn't as risky to have groups that were of a little larger size. We still encourage people to constantly sanitize, wear a mask, 6 feet apart, et cetera. So that was the only change. So for me, with it being doubles anyways, the number one thing in our mitigation plan was we want to limit the amount of people that each individual comes into contact with, right? So normally in the summer, we would have them sign up individually. We would max out every court at 8 kids, and we'd split them up by level. So we only did private groups of 4. So we either signed up in a group of 4, or you were a person or a pair that needed to pair up with other people. We made sure the parents got to know each other, that they were comfortable, that they understood that we're going to take every precaution possible. We're going to change out every set of equipment, the chairs, the tables, the volleyballs between every practice. We'll put 15 minutes in between practices to make sure we're not crossing paths. We'll temp check, we'll sanitize before and after getting off the court. So we did everything we could to mitigate risk, but it's never going to be 100%. And I'm okay with the reality that it's not necessarily the numbers I want, but I'm glad that our kids, even if there was a positive case, really, we probably wouldn't be in too difficult of a position in regards to being able to contact trace, because we're not all crossing paths too much. So that's been 2 months in. It's gone really well. The kids are getting a ton of individual attention. I've always got an extra staff member for sanitation purposes so that practice doesn't start if they need to do anything. But we've been using them as a second coach when they've not been needed, which is 99% of the time. So the kids are getting so much individual attention. And it's been fun to watch from week to week the progress.
You know what? Well, damn, bro. I could have just took the first half of this podcast and just chopped it off, because now we're talking real stuff here. I'm having a little fun, but this is, look, okay, I'm half kidding. It's real. But on a serious level, I'm glad you said that, because I think other coaches are looking for ideas, all right? You did the right thing. You went in constant communication with the health department, so now they know you on a first-name basis. So as far as sports is concerned, my guess is at some point they're going to refer to you and ask you how you're doing and do things like that. That's what's happening with local police departments in Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Redondo Beach to get some of these girls back on the beach, okay? Make sure the parents are not there, or make sure they're wearing a mask. And the weird thing is, for beach volleyball, the parents, it's not like the parents are sitting sitting on top of the court anyway. You know, I mean, it's nothing. Not for the people listening at home, and Bryan here, Coach McDermand knows this. For the people listening at home, there's a difference between indoor parents and outdoor parents. Okay, indoor parents, you guys are a bunch of gangster rappers. You're walking around with a big mean look on your face, mean mugging everybody. You know, why isn't my kid playing? Score, change score, change score. Where outdoor,
change score still happens at the beach.
Yeah, I mean, no, but outdoor, come on, these women are chilling. These fathers are chilling. They're eating sweet potato fries. They got a little wine on the side. You know, do you want to eat lunch? Leave me alone, ma. I mean, it is just a different environment. And beach chairs are, I mean, the better views from a distance anyway. So, I mean, if you think about our sport, just like tennis and just like other sports that have minimal, I was going to say combatants because I'm an MMA guy, but minimal contestants is doable. This is very, very important what you just said. This is very, very important. If anyone in this podcast only listen to this one part, good to go, because people, Bryan, desperately are looking for just easier ways, because there are two realities. One, we know staying home and not leaving and not doing these things is the absolute safest way to go. But that's one reality. This is your second reality, that a lot of people, a lot of our friends, unfortunately, this is a humanitarian thing that's been hijacked by politics. Here's the other reality. No, you're not gonna hide behind your door until a vaccine comes. Okay, that's the other reality. A vaccine will take as much as a year, which if done right, really a year and a half for one strain that may or may not work for that one strain. Not even the other two that are coming. I had a lab rat, one of my friends. She's into infectious diseases and medical laboratory sciences, but her job is to improve vaccines and medications for the FDA. You know, to vet the process and make it whatever. And she's telling me it's going to be a while, but she says they're close, but close still means a year. So we're not. Well, again, Coach, we're not thinking can't. We're thinking okay, can, but how?
Right.
I'll give you another example. UFC, Dana White. Big pair of balls between that guy's legs, right? Fight Island, for Christ's sakes. And some stuff in Vegas. But 8-week training camps for fighters. 6 to 8 week training camps. Coaches, maybe amount to 6. Nutritionist, head coach, jiu-jitsu coach, boxing, wrestling coach. Maybe rounds out to about 6 to 8 people. They're together. They're not bringing their families. Only the big dogs bring their families, okay? So for 8 weeks, you test 3 times. At some point, COVID's going to come up, and if anyone, the coaches to the fighter has it, fights off. And that's the way Dana did it. They tested multiple times. They have an arena with no fans, just like you said, just staff and personnel only. And I think out of close to 200 fights, they've had 3 cases, you know, and only one of them was a fighter. So it was something that they found a way to do. Tennis is another sport, right? Competitors on opposite sides of the court. The referee's on a high chair. Okay, the commentary team is literally in a bunker. All right, not figuratively in a bunker. A bomb can hit. Okay, tennis player's dead. Referee blown off his high chair. Who survives? John McEnroe and Patrick McEnroe and whoever that chick is that's with him. That sounds like that has like a dude's athletic voice. Cause I love girls. I love girls that have that kind of let's evacuate these bitches voice. You know they play sports. So. Special kudos and I'll give you the floor, but I really love. I want to hear more examples of coaches and people like you from different regions that are finding the way to make this work.
One of the things that you brought up was the UFC and the challenge for youth sports is like all these pro sports have access to testing that we can't even fathom. Like one of the issues we have in our area is you can go get tested for free. If you're high priority, if you've got health issues, then you're on the fast track, which is 6 to 10 days before you get a result.
Yeah.
So, UFC, NBA, NFL, MLB, they're all able to test daily on site and get quick results. And that's not something that's accessible to the general public. So we have to be that much more cautious compared to them in the aspect that we don't have the same ability to kind of monitor who's bringing possibly something in and who isn't. And that's one of the concerns. Like I went this weekend to watch 2 of my players play. I at the end of the day, I've got some players that decide they want to play weekend tournaments. And, I always tell them to try and practice the same things we do inside. I can't stop them from doing it. And I was the only one on site I saw with a mask. There was at least 150 people surrounding 10 courts.
It's like a zombie
There was
apocalypse.
well, it's the truth is I think a lot of events have happened, and it's early on still. I mean, they've got 4.5 million cases confirmed, so that's still only about 1.5%, a little less than of the population. So people are doing these events, and at the time that someone isn't infecting, and so everyone's kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't as big of a deal, maybe this is overblown, and you're going to see it. We saw that study that just came out from Georgia, that overnight camp, where they tested, I think, 300 something kids, and 76% of those cases came back positive. That was one overnight thing. So we just have to be, it's not, I feel like there's a lot of people that say you're either, you want to quarantine and shut down the economy, or you want to reopen up. And I think it doesn't have to be one side versus the other. We have to open up. These kids are going to go crazy if they don't. But are we doing all the simple things? Social distancing, constant sanitation, spread everyone out 6 feet. We have a sport where we should be capable of doing it, but are the leaders actually enforcing it? And I think that's what at least our governor is seeing as an issue, and why they're kind of putting the clamp on us for this fall, because even when we have the opportunity to be open safely, some people are just being a little bit negligent on it.
Yeah, there's an old saying: if you don't behave like adults, the government will treat you like children. All right, so I mean, we got scared to death early in the spring when we saw a video on the news and the newspaper article of Florida looking like spring break. I mean, at the time I thought it was spring break, and everybody was like, every beach in California was like, shukung, you're shut down. Shukung, you're shut down. Shukung, it's barricaded off. Police line, do not cross. It looked like a damn crime scene, for Christ's sakes. And you're right. It's the behavior of a few to many that has shaped how we're doing our shutdown and preventing these phases. These phases that are backed by a ton of science, because the guys in that field, that's all they're doing. My guess is they're dropping everything they're doing, and they're finding ways to understand this thing. And when you understand it, the risk, and then you assume the risk, because that's what America's about, right? I mean, if you're free, if it's your constitutional right to protest, and that breaks social distance, and no one says anything about that, then why not have a volleyball game where people are being more responsible? And I mean, I don't know if that was I saw it on the news. I don't know if that was a political argument, or a humanitarian argument. I mean, you can pick your channel, which one you get your news from, or which one is you watch just for satire, if we watch them at all anymore. But I will tell you this: the problem, the obstacle, okay? We got good goals and we got good tactics. The obstacle is politics, my man. The obstacle is, what causes a false dichotomy? Either it's all open or it's all shut. That's not a humanitarian false dichotomy, my man. That's politics. Partisan patterns. They create patterns that make people fall into these slots. That's detrimental to dialogue. And if you don't have dialogue, I mean, it slows everything down, and that's the problem. I mean, going off on my little spiel, but what it is. That's all. But that's also a reality, right? I mean, we have to take politics out of humanitarian efforts. All right. Whatever. BLM, in my opinion, is a humanitarian effort. It's not, a politician. I mean, nobody, I mean, a black guy who's being unfairly incarcerated or killed. My guess is you don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican. And in light of the fact that most of this country doesn't vote at all, I mean, what the hell does politics have to do with these things? We have to do a better job addressing each other as human beings and having a dialogue. And anything that gets in the way of that, that's what's got to lose, not the people, not us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big issues right now, is it's become one side versus the other side. And, we live in this era where at any point you could go on the internet and find something that is going to come off as a credible source that will make you feel justified in your opinion. And it's just not the way it really is now. And especially with what we've got going on, it doesn't have to be, like you said, like it's either shut everything down or reopen. the challenge right now is we've been doing this for 4 to 5 months, and there's not a lot of leadership in regards to, okay, if we're going to reopen, here are basic protocols that absolutely have to be followed in order to mitigate the risk. You know, you bring up the point about the protests and the difference between a volleyball game, and I don't want to get too political on it, but it's not that these spaces, I mean, Fauci himself said that any public, grouping is going to promote higher risk. So it wasn't condemning the actions. I mean, those are people that feel like they got nothing to lose anyways, and they feel like their voices are not being heard, and they're trying to have it be heard. To me, whether what my opinion is on it or not, that's part of having that right, and they're putting themselves at risk to do it that way. At the end of the day, for us playing a volleyball game, like hitting a leather ball over the net, I coach volleyball because I like to teach life lessons. At the end of the day, whether they win or lose, if we're teaching them how to work better with others, in my opinion, youth sports for many of these kids is their first experience with failure. Two teams going for one victory. The supply never exceeds the demand. And teaching these kids when the first time that they fall short of what they want, and how to bounce back from that, how to go for the next goal, move on to the next play. How do you learn from those challenges? You hope that it doesn't just teach them things about how to play a game, but we're teaching them lessons that are going to help them with their education, with their relationships, with their careers.
Right. And I'm not going to push back, but I'm going to bounce back by saying if we're citing that something's your right as a pretext, then that's a flat line. They're both your right. Protesting's your right. Playing volleyball is your right. If we're going to cite what's essential and what's a non-essential as a pretext, I would suggest to you that mental health is not on the same level, not in the same field, not even the same freaking sport as your physical safety and your physical health. But these things are important too. And this is why the NBA has a bubble right now. And congratulations to them so far, no positive test. Right. That's why the UFC's whatever. I think your mental and your state of mind is important. I'll give you a great example. 9/11. Not comparing people who didn't have a choice but to be killed, opposing people, who make these irresponsible choices that lead to the sickness, if not the deaths of others. When 9/11 hit, the New York Yankees, when they brought sports back, sports is gone, football's gone, everything was a grinding halt. I was in New York. I was living in Queens at the time. It got so expensive I moved to the city, but that's a whole nother story. That's Forest Hills for you. But when the Yankees started playing again, and the Oakland A's were up 2-0. Jared Jeter did that freak play, right? He's playing out of position, stopped the guy from scoring. Yankees came back, won the next 3. All of a sudden, the ratings, everyone started watching it. And then they beat, I believe, Seattle. Wound up against the Diamondbacks. They did a documentary about this thing. It inspired and just gave us, the New York population, and then later the nation, the entire country, this form of escapism. I mean, because it's not healthy to watch the news day by day after what happened at 9/11. You have to be informed, and I know journalists are always saying they want to do their job, but come on, when sweeps come and they making some cash off of this, they thinking about their money too, okay? So I'm not trying to vilify people for doing their job, but I would suggest mental health and a form of escapism from your bullshit reality, because I'm not saying this is bullshit, but God, I'm feeling like, this is bullshit, holds a level of importance. I wouldn't dare, Bryan, hold it in the same magnitude as your physical safety and your physical health. I ain't trying to do that. I'm just saying that it is, because your mental health your physical health is a priority, doesn't get its due attention, and I was just highlighting that.
And how cool is it that we are lucky to have a sport that, with 2-on-2 capabilities, we could do it in truly a way that gets that sweet spot of giving them those opportunities to play. Because I'll tell you, in May, I was definitely at one of my lower points about it, and I'm sitting here like, well, how am I getting up for teaching volleyball with what's going on right now? And then you get on the court with the kids and you see for 2 hours that with all the crap that they're dealing with, that I know how difficult it is in my 30s, let alone how it's going to be as a teenager. And for 2 hours, they can just go back to the reality they knew before. that's when we kind of realized that now I think there's a happy medium. And I think that's the challenge. I agree. I'd love to see the beaches in California open. I don't want to get too much on the political side. Simply put, I would feel a lot more empathetic on the restrictions I've seen if when I saw people doing certain activities that they were being a little more cautious, because the truth is my favorite analogy so far I've seen, it's kind of like suicides, right? One person doesn't touch the line, we're all going back and doing it again.
Yep, let's go.
That's kind of my perspective on it.
More than 25 seconds? Again. Sorry, go ahead.
So, that's the main thing is like, I'm glad that we're starting to see more and more models. It's not just our program. I know there's a couple clubs in the area that have been doing more grass, and they've been setting the courts up further apart. You've seen a lot that have been able to keep the numbers lower, which again, for a lot of these kids is awesome. They get more individual attention than when we're slamming 10 plus kids on the court. So, I know I've been lucky enough to write for the Aspen Institute and kind of give a little bit of a blueprint of how we're doing things. And it's been cool to see other organizations are doing the same. So we're all trading notes to figure out how do we reset? How do we create that escapism that you're looking for in a manner that isn't going to potentially elongate how long we have to do this.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. When your escapism becomes your career, I don't think there's a better set of human beings that think about this 24/7. The ideas must be respected and shared and feedback. And I think collectively we all grow on that. What grade do you give your governor handling this whole thing?
I think it's a little too early to do any grading. I'm not here to judge what people are doing because, we're going to see. We're still in the first quarter,
Yeah.
For volleyball, we haven't even gotten to the technical timeout. Like there's a lot of things we have to figure out. And, at the end of the day, the one thing I do respect is they didn't just say you can't open, right? When the IHSA just shut down in the fall, the governor said, here's the sports that are high risk. Here are the ones that are medium. Here are the ones that are low. And for the ones that are high risk, these are the things you can do as a sport for the ones that are medium. So the one thing, whether you agree with it or not, that I respected is unlike the places where I'm seeing people like, hey, you need to do this and figure it out on your own. They're putting certain things in front of us, but they're giving us kind of like, these are the things you could do within these parameters, which as long as it's not beyond what the health department's recommending and it seems to be aligned with that, I'm comfortable with it. So we've been open again for over 2 months, and that's gone pretty well so far. And we haven't really had any issues on our end. And anytime I've needed to call the health department, they've been accessible. So from my personal experience, we're okay.
Yeah. You had an interview in Volleyball Magazine that was entitled "Parents and Players, Please Hold Us Accountable." Good read.
Aspen Institute.
Good read. That was Aspen Institute? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I just thought maybe Travis Merriweather might have reached out to you or something. You know Travis?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
Guy can write, man. The guy can
He's
write.
the muse. He's the Homer of the volleyball community.
He really is, man. He's the guy breathed life into that magazine, and big up to him. Shout out Sandcast, wherever you guys are, The
AVP's needed storylines. The AVP has needed to give players a personality so that when future players and fans are watching, it's not just that they're watching good volleyball, they are emotionally attached to who's winning the point, who's losing the point. And I felt that way for a long time, and I felt like Travis was the first one to come that had both the writing acumen to make it sound right, as well as the passion for volleyball and to really teach us about players. And I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, I love the articles that he writes that are relatable too. When he made the main draw, there are some players that you feel like you're not part of the clique, and you're in the volleyball tent, you're in the draw, and you kind of feel like an imposter. Because everyone knows each other, and it's like you feel like you walk in a room and I feel like the room's dead silent. Maybe because your subconscious messes with you. And he said just after making the draw multiple times, he felt less and less like an imposter. And I share his sentiment because I was doing some analytics and some coaching for Rafa Rodriguez. I've been doing it for quite some time. I met him through Kevin McCulloch, Kevin and Allie, and when because Kevin and Rafa were playing together 2016. So I wanted to play one before I got too old, right? I'm 47. And he invited me and Rob McLean, my tag team partner for the sports debate show. My real partner couldn't do it. I'm like, you're an idiot. We just got invited by Rafa Rodriguez and Kevin McCulloch to train in Temecula. All right,
Sure.
so his boss is from Viper Sports. He was the head coach of Viper Sports. His boss has a mansion, and in the back of the mansion is this volleyball court being raked by the butler and the staff. They have a hot tub next to it, and you got great competition. We're 2 hours. We're just going to share ideas on drills, this and that, what works, what doesn't. The four of us. Kevin was more the leader because Kevin doesn't wait for everybody to say, "What do you want to do?" He says, "Nah, this is how we're going to do it." And then all four of us shot ideas, and at the end, we played King, 3 games of 15. I won't reveal who won, but let's just say out of the four of us, you'd be surprised, and I will say it wasn't me. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Hunger's a real thing, though. But from that point on, I asked Rafa if I could just do a pull chart for him, transition chart, numbers, and this and that. A couple of years later, him and Ed, they win. I'm happy he won the AVP. Kevin's Allie's assistant. She got the job at UC Davis for women's beach volleyball. Allie McCulloch. So they moved out there, and I don't even remember my point anymore.
Good, man.
I want to, you know what, the hell with that. I want to bounce back that you were feeling discouraged because you felt everything was about income versus outcome. Take the audience listening to the point where I'm giving you, or if you have to go before that point and then steer us back on this highway. Floor is yours.
So, again, I'm running my own program. I run beach, and a lot of my kids play for other programs. So, June hit and everyone was phase 3, so 10 or less. So even when the clubs were starting to run the kids, it was all, very isolated things, not too, extensive with the cardio, what they're doing. One of the things every webinar that was dealing with bringing back youth sports stress is we have to coach the kids in front of us. Some of these kids have been off for 2.5 months, and you hope that some were able to stay in shape. Some of our kids came back in incredible shape, so they were putting the work in. Some's family situation, they might have had to do more around the house. They may have had to, they were essential workers. They were some of the people with their groceries and deliveries and stuff like that. So, we had to be easing them back in. So for us, with every group, we kind of went over the fundamentals again and kind of got them going simple. By week 3, we were starting to do more full speed games. And by week 4, you could see the progress, not just in the physical mechanics and the mental IQ, but they're just playing some of their best ball at the end of the practice. And then July hit, and kids started coming in, and not a lack of effort and not a lack of want, but they just were dragging and really lucid. They were struggling to get up. And you'd come to find out that some of them are doing 1 day at their high school and 1 day at their club. Some of them are doing 2 days at their club. They're back to full speed games and stuff like that. They're playing these tournaments on the weekends to make up for tournaments in March, April. So on top of the fact that we're just burning them out. I've got 11 and 13-year-olds that are dealing with shoulder pain, knee issues, which, all the sports science says we're already overtraining them. We should be giving them 4 months off per sport to give them a little less impact on their joints. So that being said, you start talking to the kids, you're asking them questions, and a lot of them are telling me about how they're not getting the social distancing. Coaches aren't wearing masks. In some cases, you've got a director telling the parents that there was a positive case and not going through their mitigation plan protocol and doing contact tracing. They just stopped for 1 day and then started up.
Yeah, the
and
next
gave
day.
No further information.
24 hours later, right? Yeah.
So it's not. I get frustrated sometimes when we're having some conversations on certain forums about this, because immediately some people will attack and say, we can't have the problem worse than the solution, or the solution can't be worse than the problem. We can't be possibly shutting things down. Business has got to survive. I empathize with that, but let's find a happy medium. How do we provide competitive opportunities for these kids without jeopardizing, having to start over again? And, I only got 30, 40 kids in my program, and the amount of stories I heard, and things going on in the other programs, you just couldn't help but feel like at some point the cases are already starting to rise in our state again, and they're worried that youth sports and having these travel tournaments and a lot of kids spreading with a lot of people, it's just high risk if in the event that some positive cases start making their way into the community.
Yeah. You know, as a native New Yorker, I was scared for a lot of my friends. And I mean, at this point, because we have a large circulation of friends, colleagues, associates, coaches, commentators, players of all ages, it's only a matter of time you run into someone you know that tested positive.
Right.
You know, one of my closest friends, long time friend, Bernard Norman, he's a musician now.
Yeah, you did one of your last interviews.
Yeah,
with him, right?
I just did that for fun. There, like sometimes, like my podcast has an overall super agenda, where it puts me in a position where I can have exactly what we have now. We're trying to make people better versions of ourselves. We're trying to have healthy dialogue. We're trying to avoid false dichotomies. We're trying to avoid bandwagon fallacies. A premise is popular, so it must be right. We're trying to avoid attacking someone's character and as opposed to attacking someone's argument. So there's a general set of rules. I just want everybody to come, and that's my little secret thing that because everyone's like, why are you doing this? What does it promote? What is it about? Like, it's about everything. But Bern, come on, this is a guy, if you listen to him just the first 15 minutes, I'm just having fun. You have no idea what was in this glass before that podcast. So he survived it, but he was in Harlem Hospital. And everybody in New York knows when you wind up at Harlem Hospital, you can go in there the cold and wind up dead, okay? You can, the flu, pneumonia, or other things that are flu-like or virus-like that you're wondering if they're doing their job and if they're taking care of you. So he wound up at Harlem Hospital. I'm like, please come out alive. My man lives. So he's a COVID survivor. So I was scared the reason why I'm bringing it up is because Chicago is, as far as dense population is concerned, I'm sure you had similar concerns. Hermosa Beach, no. I mean, I think maybe we had one death, and we had a few cases, and we had a small spike because people on the Strand were against each other, and a lot of these red-blooded Americans are just like, it ain't gonna affect me. I'm fine. Virus. And you go, good for you, Dick. Okay, you're fine. You're gonna live. How about the person that you're gonna give it to? But it's like you said once. And I'm bringing it back. Trust me. Before I bring it back, I wanted to say there's a huge misunderstanding about the mask. Like, even me, because I'm in this environment, I'm in La La Land. I thought in the beginning the mask was there to protect you from getting it, but that's not what the mask was designed for. The mask is to prevent you from giving it to someone if you have it. I only found that out a couple of months ago. So there are a lot of people who are still misinformed. Like, the guy's like, oh, he's got a mask, I'm good, because in his mind, he's miseducated on the facts, the heavy opinion based on scientific fact. I'll say that, not fact. It is the opinion of many scientists and doctors that wearing the mask helps you prevent it from giving it. So you understand what I'm saying? There are some people that don't wear the mask because they're miseducated. That they think if you have one and they don't, they're safe. They're only like one of the two people have to have it. So, which brings me back to Chicago. There is a concern because of a dense population that I mentioned from New York all the way up to this point. Go ahead.
Well, let me hit something that you talked about, and then we'll go to Chicago. So to go back to the thing about like the guy that doesn't take it seriously, and you're like, all right, well, you're not considering other people. You hit the nail on the head. Like, everyone's getting different perspectives from different people with different agendas. And so the problem is instead of sitting here and acting like one side is infinitely right and one side's infinitely wrong, like, we should be taking a step back and saying these leaders that are supposed to be working together to figure out what's best for us collectively, that's what we need to be. And the problem is they're not going to be held accountable by us because we're busy fighting amongst ourselves. So I never look at someone, like, even people that say things that are complete polar opposite of my belief, while at surface level, my knee-jerk reaction is to be offended or even bothered by it. And you take a step back and you just say they are not coming from the same set of circumstances, the same set of education, and it's not about right or wrong. It's just they're getting different data that's forming their opinion. And so, again, it's you hope that at some point as a nation we realize it's not helping us to point the finger. Like, we're athletes, we work with teams, right? If you got two groups on the team that aren't getting along, we still have to figure a way to get them to buy into one philosophy and work together to one goal.
Or we're going to lose. We're going to lose big.
And instead, you've got a coach, two associate head coaches that are basically pointing fingers at the opposite sides of the team. I mean, no leadership would ever succeed in athletics that way. And yet that's what we're seeing within our society. So we got to stop looking at it as one half of our country is the good side and one half's the bad side. Well, we got to look at it as we are all on the same team, whether we're acting like it or not. And the sooner that we start trying to figure out how to collectively work together to find the best balance possible to get through this for all of us, the sooner we're going to get to actually have conversations that are meaningful and hopefully, while it's going to take time, start moving in the right direction.
But I'm a big fan of yours because your empathy is the key tool to this, right? I just told you about the guy on the strand, right? But that guy's not a one-dimensional person. I just gave you two different guys. One, he's not wearing a mask because he doesn't care. The other one's not wearing the mask because he's not educated. All right. Bryan, I can forgive and tolerate ignorance. I'm not going to tolerate stupidity because stupidity is you're aware of the facts and you're just kind of like set in your ways. You're just shaking your head and some of those guys you really want to give up on because it's beyond reach. But at the same time, we're on the same team and politically, like no matter who wins this election, and when it's over, we all still have to deal with each other because I've only 2 or 3 times in my life actually seen a president do something that affects us directly, positively or negatively. This is COVID, that's one, but the 2 other cases. But I just gave you an example of someone's already prejudged. Oh, that guy's an idiot. He's probably with that party. You know what I'm saying? But your empathy has to be has to be a tool, not the common denominator, but it has to be a tool because I just gave you 2 versions of that guy. One guy doesn't know any better. Just say, hey, did you know, listen, that's not how the mask works, dude. And if you educate his ignorance, and if he's still set in his ways, he becomes stupid. And then now you got a problem with a teammate,
Yeah, it's so many times you see something and someone thinks like, how the heck could someone say that? But then they don't actually answer that question. And there's a reason, right? It's something that they've read somewhere else. It's something you don't know who their parents are like, what their mentors are like.
Received opinions.
Everyone is sculpted by their own individual experiences. And I'm lucky to have mentors in my life, I feel, that have put me on the right way and taught me life lessons from my parents to some of my coaches, some of my teachers, parents of my friends that kind of serve that role. So I'm blessed to have that type of upbringing, to have people that kind of show me like, how do your actions affect others?
Yeah.
And, when I see people that don't act that way, I feel bad because a lot of the people that I've worked with that might have narcissistic behavior or they're it's a dog eat dog world. They're some of the most unhappy people. And you take a step back and you see that. And I don't think anyone's happy, like trying to step on other people to get where they want. And so you just,
even if they are, it's a very temporary feeling. Sorry.
Yeah. It's little, victories and then on to the next one because they're never comfortable. It's never enough. And, again, it's, you do your best to, you find your good vibe tribe, you find the people that are aligned with you philosophically that you invest energy into and vice versa. And then people that are of a different opinion or perspective, you hope that they find their own tribe and that you can both coexist in a manner that doesn't negatively affect one or the other.
So I'm laughing because Jeremy Carlin is like, go ahead, Jason, say say my name. It's me you're talking about. He just commented
Jeremy?
earlier.
I know him.
He said, had a lot of fun watching Bryan battle Kalinsky back in the day. So,
oh man, I'm probably like 2-16 against him lifetime, but
you're like battle. We didn't have a battle. He rubbed my face with the planet.
most of the time. But that's, I tell my kids like, so Kalinsky and Buckley, and Kyle Buckley doesn't get enough credit for his role in that partnership because he was a pain in the butt when Kalinsky had the physical tools early and he was always good, but he was, as a basketball player converted. So those first couple of years, even when he was so good physically, he was still winning, but a pass was shanked. It didn't matter because Buckley's going to put his hands on it and put it where he needed it. Great defense around him. So me and Joe Baker started playing together in 2011. We're about 300 pounds combined. He's 6'5", I'm 6'2". But the one thing that I love about that guy is we were very different personality wise, but we showed up. So for 4-6 days a week for 3 years we played together, we were lifting, we were playing. If we messaged each other, hey, 6 a.m. tomorrow, we were there. So when we first started playing Bradford events up in Milwaukee, we would lose, we were taking 7ths and 9ths the first year, but we were starting to figure out spacing and defensive philosophy. 2012, we start taking 3rds, but it never failed. We would run into Billy or Buckley in the quarters or the crossover, and we'd be sputtering. And then we really changed our nutrition between 2012, 2013. Again, we were both small guys, didn't have a huge appetite, a 90-degree heat, but had to start getting, a little protein, little bananas, just electrolytes, things to fuel ourselves. And all of a sudden, we made a big adjustment with our offense. Billy was so big and Buckley was quick. Anytime we ran the ball in the middle, Billy could get over us, so we'd have to shoot.
Yeah.
And Kyle was so patient and balanced on defense. He's getting everything.
Right, your shoot got run down.
So I never forget, it was a January 2012 tournament indoors at the Horny Goat. We lose 21-18, 21-13. But I kind of noticed that finally, and I'm like, hey, if we make it back to the final and run into them, we're gonna get every ball to the pin. Try and pass forward. If not, we'll kick out and we'll get the ball there. Joe was an incredible hand setter.
Yeah. Did you split block the whole time?
What'd you say?
Jeremy asked you, did you split block the whole time, or did they
split?
Did they split block the whole time?
Joe was the blocker the whole time. I was always the defender. I'll tell you what was great with Joe. Joe's pull defense was so stellar. I mean, our side out game our defense was actually pretty. There wasn't a lot of method to the madness. I didn't really learn the defense I employed in my players and what I ran the rest of my career until 2014. But he blocked the whole time. He had pretty good stamina. Again, we were small, but we were in really good shape. We had good cardio. So that match, we get to them. We get back to the final, and we're playing pretty well. And we start getting the ball to pin, and all of a sudden, Billy can't take both line and cross. We were able to start hitting cross a little bit. That made Buckley have to respect our cross a little bit and high line open. So we ended up losing 15-10 in the third, and you could see them like, what we've been smoking this team for 18 months. What just happened?
Smartened up.
I ended up getting one match off them in 2014. And wasn't their best day. Kind of like when I got to play the Baumgrens in 2013. I always tell my kids, your best day can beat anyone's worst day. And you have to have that confidence when you get on the court. And those two matches were, both won by 2 and extra points in the third. A couple plays went our way. But if luck is when preparation meets opportunity, you got to cover your end of the deal. And it was a 3-year journey to get to that point. And he can have the other 15, 16 wins. And I thank both those guys, because honestly, if it wasn't to have them to chase, I don't think my partner and I have, we weren't main draw players, but 2 small town guys that weren't really anything special in high school. And D3, we were good, but we weren't any standouts, and had a couple really quality wins in really special scenarios. So it's cool.
And I think as far as playing your percentages go, it's always going to be better than people that never beat them. I'll throw some names at you. Seydou Jananko. He's from Ghana, West Africa.
East Coast guy, no?
Well, he played for Cal Baptist, but he spent 10 years on the East Coast, and he played a lot. He played a lot with.
Was he there in 2009?
Cal Baptist?
Yeah.
No, but Shamzu might have been. I don't know.
Shamzu was there, yeah.
Shamzu is, for anyone listening, think of Seydou like 3-4 inches taller. And that's
He's
Shamzu.
the one that cracked that. He jump served it and then ran the back row.
And the overpass. And Seydou has the balls. He has that on his profile, right? Because from a distance, their playing style's the same. People like elbow back, elbow forward. Seydou's wrist and elbow, which, by the way, you can hit forever for the rest of your life because you're up there and it costs your shoulder nothing. So if you looked at their playing style and their approach and the way they jump, it's very, very similar from a distance. If you're watching from, if you're videotaping from up there. So when I saw it, I thought it was Seydou. Jump serve and then boom. For people listening, jump serve, and off the jump serve, the overpass goes to D zone, and he just uses his serve and his momentum as an approach to hit an overpass. An overpass off the D zone, straight down in the middle in front of the defense, and everyone's just losing their mind. And I called Seydou, and I said, Seydou. No, I didn't call him. He's in Central Park, and I sat with him. I said, Seydou, tell me the truth. That wasn't you, right? And he just goes, Yeah, you know that sheepish smile. No,
Yeah.
that was Shamzu. That was Shamzu. But I brought him up because on the indoor scene, New York has had a league, or still has a league, but there are boom periods. New York Urban Professionals. It's this mixture of pro players, people on the beach that want to play indoor, working professionals who are ex D2, D1, D3 college players. There's like 254 teams, God knows how many co-ed teams, but the premier is men's D1 and women's D1. So I run into Seydou. I played with him a bunch of times, but I run into a team that's always loaded. It's him, Mike Salek, you know, Elvis,
Yep.
of course, King of New York for a while. Maybe Kurt is playing middle. Luis Mendez, who's set for Hustle and Flow. They won nationals with Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb and Frankie. So you got these
I think
teams.
they beat the Summit Boys in the final too,
Yep.
which is the local team.
Yeah, but those are guys that play on the Dominican national team too. So.
Right. No.
And then you got
Spencer Sauter from Penn State.
That's right, Spencer Sauter. That's right. But then you got two guys that are like both Taylors that are balling out. Taylor Crabb, I think at the time was a national player of the year. So and Luis Mendez, a lot of people don't know that Dominican is no joke. His hands, he's just, he played at Queens College as an oppo and then Concordia as an oppo and the setter. But my point is, playoffs come, the season's over, semifinals and finals, it's always me and it's always them. And they're like, someone comes up to me like, Jason, how many times, every time you're playing that team, they're fucking losing a set and they're arguing with each other and this and that. And he's like, how many times out of 10 times you beat that team? Just give me a number. I said, I was going to say 4 because I was feeling really good about myself, but I had to be honest. I forced my hand. I say 3 times out of 10. And they're like, what's the secret? We can't, what's the secret? I mean, Paul Lamb had a team, and Paul Lamb, that was 2 generations of players that won nationals in 1996. Those guys don't even get old. Out of South Brooklyn. I set for that team. And Balmeso, because those guys, they say they're out of North Carolina, but no, they're in Washington Heights. You're an East Coast guy. Secrets out. Ulysses, secrets out. They said, what's the secret? And I said, let a sleeping tiger lie. Let a sleeping tiger lie. There's going to be some point where they're gonna get blocked one-on-one, or there's going to be a miscommunication, and Elvis is, who's at the time playing libero, is going to be like, ¿qué carajo? Ven aquí, ¿qué es su problema? ¿Qué carajo es su problema? ¿Qué? So, and then Luis is like, what? And then they're calling timeout. But what you don't want to do is let them see you laughing at them. What you don't want to do is scream at them like, oh, I got another block, because you just took all the energy that they were using to implode, and then you just kick something that has bigger teeth.
You don't want to remind them that it's us versus them and not them versus themselves.
Yeah, they're not going to like my next answer. The second thing is I was smarter than them. That's it. Sorry, I was smarter than them. You play someone for almost a decade straight, and these other teams, this guy's favorite shot is wrist away. He's got more power, and he's more uncomfortable here. But game after match after match, I watch them play the same teams, and I watch them do the same things. I watch them run the same plays they like to run, and sometimes it's about clientele. Right? But sometimes John Mayer, I worked with him for a year, we're big into controllables. There's some things that are within your control. And I won a lot of games because I was smarter. I won some games where I brought the game to the momentum to a slow grinding halt. Okay, you got 4 middles. You're trying to work out for nationals. You're rotating in and out. Guess what? We're running fast plays, but those plays are going to happen once every 35, 40 seconds. Okay, got to tie my shoe, whatever. And then next thing you know, I got, and all I didn't need to get crewed up. Right? This is indoor, mind you. I didn't have to get crewed up. I just needed my boy Eater.
Guys that could side out and crack some serves.
This is my boy Eater was an alcoholic, drunk, not an alcoholic. He was just a drunk back then. Alcoholics got to go to the meetings, okay? So come on, so we know the difference. Eugene Flacco played for Balmeso. And won nationals with him 2004, 2005. Played at City Tech. I was his coach at City Tech. They call him Flacco. You know him when you see him. He looks like Barack Obama, actually. Really skinny. That Barack didn't eat. So those are the 2 reasons. 1, let a sleeping tiger lie. And sometimes you just gotta do your fucking homework. Why do you think we're coaches, dude? We're coaches because we're smarter than a lot of players, and it's coming from a bad this place that seems self-serving and cocky, but it doesn't mean my arrogance is not surrounded by a heightened level of truth deriving from myself to honesty, and historical fact. Right? Those 2 wins, right? They beat you. What? They're 14-2 against you, Bill Kalinsky. Can't take the 2 wins away, right? They can't go back in time and take those 2 wins away.
It's just, like I said, it was nice. You know what? There are guys like Wayne Scott and Dan Lowry. Like, there were guys that I played and I never got a match off them. So it was just, if nothing else, you know, at the end of the day, I always wanted to be the best I could be. That's the only thing you can control at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And all those wins meant, you know, with where I started when I played them first and where I played them, the type of matches we were having 3 years later, it just made me, you know, I got to recognize that all that work I put in, all the nights that I didn't go out and, you know, trained and treated my body right, that the work was showing in my performance. So, you know, and in regards to coaching, I mean, the whole reason I really cared, I knew I wasn't going to make money in our sport. There's no money in it. I wanted to get to a level where I could have a little more credibility so I could coach. And, you know, coaches are thieves. You know, I've got little sayings here and there that are kind of my own things, but the truth is 95% of what I have is, you know, I got to do a clinic with Nygaard. I got to work with Stein Metzger. I got to work with, you know, Pat Powers comes to town frequently, you know, going online and seeing things that people educate. You know, you pull things from everywhere you've been, and a lot of those people went out of their way to give me more, you know, and just donated their time. So how selfish would it be for me not to want to give the next generation those same things? Hopefully give it to them a lot faster than I got a lot of it. You know, I was working in my mid-20s just looking for all this information to be able to give some of these things to 12 and 13-year-olds, and seeing these kids already starting to employ 3 hits and think, you know, they love the sport, and if they're starting this young and loving the sport and loving the work that comes with it, and they're learning the mental process, you know, we're not just hitting the first or second ball over, and they're going to go play some small tournaments and they're going to lose to teams that are just chucking the first ball over, but they're going to get to that next year and the other kids are going to be ready to go 3 hits and they're going to be that much more ahead. So it's just nice to, again, these kids are dealing with a lot off the court, and to be able to you know, give them something that challenges them and gives them life skills as well as be a fun environment. I wanted to be a teacher for a while, but the truth is I don't like coaching effort. And I knew with at least volleyball in my program, like, my kids know that I'm going to treat them the same, whether they're winning matches, whether they're losing matches. All I ask is that when they show up, they respect me, they respect the coaches, the other peers, and that they give their absolute best effort, and they owe that to themselves. And it's made it a lot of fun. I'm lucky to do what I do for a living.
I just like theater performers. There's a saying in theater performance: good artists create, great artists steal. All right. Very, very applicable to volleyball. I studied theater at Marymount Manhattan College. I was at Hunter for a cup of coffee. Didn't even go to school. Just wanted to play volleyball with a bunch of friends back then. Justin Stack was there. He was there as a freshman and then disappeared and then came back and finished later. Everyone knows Justin. Everyone respects him. A head and assistant at Baruch College for a long time. Ray Bellows, assistant at Hunter when you were playing for Newbury. Yep. Greg Romulus, his whole family plays. Rudy's kid brother, all Creole guys, all when they were an all Haitian team. So, but my game is the game as a coach didn't pick up until I studied theater, and just the comparison and some contrast, but the mostly comparison of what theater and volleyball has in common. And the one thing I always take, and I tell my kids, good artists create, great artists steal. That's one. Two, what you said, highlighting what you said and topping off on what you said. If you take the elevator to the penthouse, press lobby. Send the son bitch back down. All right, let other people get up there. Right, cool. So those are the two things I just wanted to echo my sentiment that compares with yours, which which is just the comparison. I want to talk about controllables on a juniors level. I'm going to give you my major 3, and I want to tell you, and I want you to give me 3 controllables, which you give the kids. Jason's major 3 controllables when I'm coaching Endless Summer. This is just beach. As an example, but can apply for everywhere. One is serve, 100% control, right? No one can block it. No one can, no one can Matumbo it. Remember the commercial? Not in my house. Yeah. Second controllable, in system setting. If your partner gives you a perfect pass, can the other team make you set poorly? No. The third controllable is down ball, free ball. 70, 30, 80, 20, 90, 10, whatever. There are levels to that, depending on what level. But that I always make sure I tell my kids those, because the wind, yeah, I mean, you're talking about beach and you're talking about beach indoor, but the wind is a real thing out here, okay? I'm not going to talk about the horror stories when I first started playing beach out here. Went home crying. But I said the other team first. The other team has the same wind you have. There's not like wind on your side and then no wind on the other. So those are my three major controllables for beach volleyball. Can you give me two or three of your own?
I'll tell you one that I think is underutilized in a lot of programs from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
One, we got to be able to balance and move. Metzger was the one that really taught me about kind of putting your toes in a little bit, because it naturally puts you on the balls of your feet. And push steps. Our sand is super deep at our facility. It is a slice of Hermosa. Ratledge, K-Spear, Ryan Mariano, they've all played in it. It was really funny to watch K-Spear. He was demoing a four-step approach, and he took his first stop, and he's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And like to see a guy that is literally like one of the most freak athletes on tour, in the world.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear, because I wanted these kids to be faster everywhere they went after us.
Right.
So we have to teach them how to move, because if you don't get your feet and hips facing where you're going, you can't move in the sand. It's going to grab you. If you don't heel toe, it's going to grab you. If you don't push and bring that leg with you so that everything's balanced correctly, you could be the best passer, setter, hitter. If you can't move to the ball, you can't do the execution properly. So we're very big. The first thing we teach them is the footwork. I'm with you on the serve. Your serve, and to build on what you said, your serve does one of two things. It either gives them a free point or a very easy pass to let them do what they want to score, or we create chaos, and we're in the business of chaos. So, we obviously, for the younger kids, we're just working on being able to hit a spot with a purpose to start. We're getting the technique right, making sure they're using their whole body. We're not overloading their shoulder, and also making sure that they're thinking, beach volleyball is fun geometry. Where am I trying to hit on the ball? And especially for the younger kids, when they make a mistake, not just getting frustrated, if I hit point B and I was aiming for point A, what do I need to do next time? So we try not to dwell on the mistake. We say, why did it happen? How to correct it? And then I'd say the other big thing we're doing locally that I think I'm seeing a lot of juniors programs, not necessarily, I know the big ones in Cali and Arizona, they're all doing it. We got a lot of teams that don't start with someone at the net. They don't teach decision-based defense. And you have these incredible athletes at other programs, kids that I would love to coach. And they're playing a style of ball. A lot of these indoor clubs, there's not a lot of beach education. You have to kind of go look for it. So a lot of these programs, they want to offer something for their kids in the summer because it's a trendy thing to do. They want to get outside. But they're not able to give them kind of the basic X's and O's on how to do that. So you get these teams where, on paper, physically, they've got some huge mismatches against our kids, but we're able to both exploit, we set the ball tight, and we make sure that if we're going to air, we air tight so that they have to bring someone up. And we make sure to just kind of keep them off the net because they haven't been taught how to better that second ball and stay aggressive with the set. So we get a lot of down ball, free ball opportunities. So, it's nice because in-house, everyone learns the same system. So over time, we can do some kind of queen in the beaches in-house, and they're able to play with a lot of different people, play with them with good chemistry because they all know where they're supposed to transition. But also we give a lot of different looks. We've got kids, you can play with two bigs, you can play two smalls, and talking about in real time, like figuring out that team, what's their plan A and how do we take it away? Giving them the chess game has been great. And sometimes you overload a little bit at the beginning and you got to kind of dial it back. But just at times where I think maybe I need to dumb it down, I'm overdoing it. You see these 13-year-olds running pass set hit and calling shots and pull defense and scooping balls. And again, they may lose some points at the 12U or 14U tournament that year. But when they get older, we're not here to win every 16, 18U tournament. We're here for the kids that want to play in college level so that when they're the 19-year-old playing against the 22-year-olds, they're ready to hang. And we've had a lot of kids that have gone to some pretty good schools and had very good success as freshmen. And we have them come back and ask, is there anything that you would say after a year in college that you wish we did differently? We could have prepared you better. A lot of them say they even think it slows down. So that's music to my ears.
Yeah. Listen, there's a handful of coaches out there I like to name by name. I just cited Justin Stack. He was at Baruch College, which at the time when he got that team, they were the 7th seed, which everybody classified as the worst conference in NCAA volleyball. Takes him to the Final Four, but that wasn't his goal. The wins and that success that this city university school enjoyed came from what you were talking about, just making individual. Like, do you have any idea how many contracts they have, like, to play overseas?
Sure.
Remember we were talking about Daniel Levent before the podcast. Dude was a beast. Dude, and he wasn't. I mean, everyone remembered because he was a heavy-handed hitter, but people forget the man had smooth as silk hands. Blocking is so weird because you have these intelligent and athletic blockers where these unicorns where you're like, oh my God, the middle missed his assignment, the outside block's gonna get lit up. But there are certain players where you're like, you know what? That guy takes 10 swings. I think I'm gonna take Danny on that one. I think I'm gonna take Danny on that block. I think he's gonna get that hitter's gonna get 2 kills. He's gonna get stuffed 3 times. He's gonna hit out twice, and then off the touch and off the dig from the hatch or whatever, or off the tweener from position 6. We're gonna hump it out. So what? Daniel 1-on-1 is making that hitter hit 2 for 10 with 3 errors. Percentage-wise is minus 100. You tell me.
Yep.
So
that checks out.
Very interesting something you said about the geometry and just the logistics of just serving as one of the controllables. John Mayer, LMU. Maybe there's only one program that does this more. Their success and the thing that makes them competitive, because if you look at their schedule, like if you look at John Mayer's schedule and he's 6-13, you know why, right? They don't just play teams in the WCC. They got to play the PAC and they got to play maybe LSU or whatever the other conference is, the Big West. Todd Rogers, Cal Poly or whatever, this and that. But when his team's 21-9, yo, you're like, ooh, that's why they're in the top 7 or whatever. But if you ever ask John, and I'll be his spokesman, huge amounts of practices on serve to space. Huge amounts of practices on serve to space. Only Stein Metzger that I've seen or heard of or talked to where they spend an equal amount of time that Mayer and Erin Mansfield, who's the indoor women's coach there for LMU, and Betsy Flint, who was the leader in aces, service aces, by far in the AVP. Well, that's because April Ross only played April Ross will be up there with her, but she played less tournaments. Sure. But Betsy can't control where the hell April Ross goes. All she can do is lead the league. So having a baby, by the way. She's
nice.
Yeah, she's expecting. So congratulations to her.
Yeah.
And it's so intriguing that if I ask an indoor player, I talked to Mike Salick, former player at LIU Southampton, but very respected New York player, played with Greg Hunter. What's the difference between AA or AAA and open? And for indoor, he says the middles. For outdoor, you ask John Mayer, maybe even Stafford Slick or Billy Allen, who John Mayer actually coaches. He's their coach. What's the biggest difference between these guys who are trying to get their AAA rating or their label? Because I always tease people about labels because I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I do that shit.
Sure.
And he'll tell you the serve.
Sure.
Beach volleyball coach, how important is the serve for you at your juniors level? And is it comprehensively same for all levels?
I mean, it's that much more deadly at the juniors level. The reason it matters to get to that next level at the open level is, a lot of these AA, AAA guys, they
all block. They can all hit, right?
They
all got hands.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the only thing you can do to get them out of system is disrupt that first contact. You got to get that pass out of system so that the set's a little out of system so you can hopefully compromise them to either hit something out of bounds or something into your defense. So that absolutely, we talk about, you think about, you can serve from the middle, you can serve from the left, you can serve from the right. Each passer has 4 different corners that I feel are the most difficult serves for them to pass, right? That's 24 different angles you can create. A lot of people talked about, like, even Carrie Walsh doesn't like being served right side, down her line. It's a tough serve for her.
Well, she's passing right side, right? If you're talking about she's passing left or right.
I'm talking about when she passed right, like in 2016.
Yeah, that was
right. So and again, it had everyone has preferences, and I
worse for
remember
lefties,
watching
dude.
the guy. There's a guy, Mike Darrenheim,
Okay.
really good open level, one of the better sand players in the Midwest when I just started. And you'd watch his first match, and it was like cracking a safe. He'd float serve, he'd jump float, he'd topspin, he'd go from left to right. And, nothing would too crazy, but you would see they would win that game like 21-17, 21-18. And then like game 2, it just clicked, he figured out, okay, this is what they don't like to do. They don't run their offense as well when I serve to the middle. They don't like it. This person doesn't get a good approach when I serve them short, or this person can't get up to the court to get a good approach when I serve them deep. And he would just pick apart a team. It was like Greg Maddux in baseball. It wasn't necessarily he was beating you with power. He beat you because he figured out quickly what you were uncomfortable with. And especially with juniors, you got some of these kids that have not been properly taught to move their feet. I tell them, if you see a kid wide with their toes out, they're on their heels, whether they realize it or not. Like, make them move, work a team and test them. Like, if they're big, if you can keep that ball deep, that high, deep serve, and they can't get the ball to the net, once they're 5 feet off the net, they're just like you and me. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we kind of use the court and use the net to our advantage. We want to figure out where is this team most successful with that first contact, and make sure we stay away from that, and make sure that we're making them do the things that they have been prepared in practice to do.
No doubt. Yeah. For John, this is 2019. They WCC playoffs, right? WCC tournament, which I nicknamed the Pepperdine Invitational, right? They've only had NCAA volleyball X amount of years, and Pepperdine has won every year by far, right? I was with John. They made semifinals. We got upset by St. Mary's, who we just at the end of the day. And John and Betsy might not want to hear this. We got outcoached. We got something I call mousetrap, and I'll explain to you what a mousetrap is later. But the year after, they get knocked in a loser's bracket. They come all the way out of hell, and they come back. And these double elimination tournaments, you have to beat them twice to win. So they came all the way out of hell, played Pepperdine a second time, won, and then had to play them a third time because Pepperdine had winners' rights. And it came down to pair 2, 15 up, and the 2 fastest ways to score a point, as far as sudden death is concerned, is a block and an ace. And one of the plays was a block. And if you have a back shot, Brian, I'm going to look it up as I'm speaking. If you have a back shot and someone pops a block up, you have no fucking idea which side it's going to land on. Sure. You have no idea what side it's going to land on. So I'm just waiting to see who cheers. And right. Oh my God, I'm trying to look it up. WCC. So, and then the very next play was an ace, and that ace doesn't happen if John doesn't do that, And you're talking about position 1 where Kerry Walsh had a hard time. I take that, put a left-handed pass over there, multiply that by 3. Lefties are the worst, man. We're always leaning in with our chin, and we always, as far as angling our platform on our left shoulder, we're left shoulder heavy. That's never been a problem unless you just suck. You're just not good enough. And John has always struggled with that. And when I first played John, he got me. He beat me 15-4. We played an exhibition game, the 15-15. I had Ty Tremblay on my side. So no matter where I passed it, Ty ran it down, and
Sure. Butter. No problem.
God, I just want to find it. There it is. Finals conclusion. There it is. I want to put it up. You could just watch it together. All right, hey. All right. So this is 14 up. So it's just going to bring you through the whole rally, Coach.
Up and down set. Veronica, wow.
So 2 evenly matched teams.
Transitioning
and now they know each other.
Blocked.
And now she knows she's going to go cut or line over.
She's got to go. That ball's dug. Looking for 15. Pepperdine
and I think here's the block.
Got it! There's the stop!
I had to look to see who celebrated first, and then I lost my mind. That's me calling it, by the way. Yeah, because this is what I was doing locally before I actually got a commentating gig.
Such a good job centering the ball. It's so important.
Yeah. And here's the next play. That's match point.
Dowd to serve.
LMU, there's their ranking. They ranked 14, and Pepperdine was 5.
There's an ace!
And there's the zombie apocalypse. Of course, a bunch of girls losing their mind.
That's awesome.
So great moment for John. It's not connected to anything in the podcast, but I wanted to share it with you because it was the first time his athletic director, his boss, ever came to a game.
Very cool.
And he was, and he won the WCC championship, and it was great. And I left earlier that year because I got a coaching offer by P1440 to coach, commentate for all of Pepperdine's home games, and to call the Big West Championship. One come Cal Poly. It's me, Mike Dodd, Travis, Robert Aspero, who's a savage by the way, and Tim Hoff. So we were the Fab Five, and but I had to come to watch it. I actually literally just ran to make sure I saw the last moments, and I taped it for him. And he was taking pictures, and he calls me over to take the picture with him. And I took the picture with him, and I said, I wish I was a part of this, because I spent time with him rebuilding it. When John asked me, they were 6-13, so a lot of that had to do with all of us. You know, I'm not tooting my own horn, of course, for about a little bit, but I said, man, I wish I was part of this. And he says, you are part of this. You know, so now I'm framing that picture. John Mayer said I was part of that.
Nice. Good deal. I was glad you were able to see that in person too, because there's nothing like the rush after like a final point like that. That's what everyone works for. That's what you dream of. It's the volleyball version of the home run.
It was the time, a great time for NCAA beach volleyball, because if you look around the conferences, I call the Power Five, that was WCC's. All right, LMU upsets Pepperdine. Of course, title doesn't get you a bid. They're working that out now. So Pepperdine went, LMU didn't. Big West Championship, pair 5, 15, game 3, 15-15, 16-16. It ended up being 19-17. The pack, USC versus UCLA, wound up being the last pair playing, pair 2. I believe it was Sarah Sponsel and Justine. And they won. So every conference went down to the last pair. And it was, dude, it was great for the sport of beach volleyball. It was great for the sport of beach volleyball.
I mean, the nice thing is with less teams and less opportunities, like, you know, there's a lot more parity. You think about with an indoor program and how many bodies one program can take, and the amount of kids playing high school volleyball and learning at the high school age, and then the amount of programs there's just a lot more balance compared to when you've got them all spread out with, you know, hundreds more schools. So it's been really cool to see. You know, you always have like LSU kind of, you know, people are paying attention. They're doing a good job down there, but they kind of snuck up on a lot of people. You're seeing a lot of programs like even, you know, FSU obviously has been, you know, doing really well on the East Coast. You're one of the things I forget the statistic at one point. I think there were 13 teams that have won the national championship in 35 years in for indoor at one point. And I think we're going to see a lot more parity in beach, just because, you know, programs like even there's small ones like Georgia State and South Carolina that are starting to pull in good competition, you know, good talent. Because maybe some of these kids want to not be a reserve on a power conference team. Maybe they want to be, you know, they've got that number one mentality and they can compete with some of those top people. So rather than, you know, being behind a McNamara and a Sponsor, I mean, that number 3 would probably be a number 1 most other places. So
it's true.
It's exciting. It's always more exciting. That's what makes college football so good, is like every week the results matter, and there's, you know, good teams can slip up one week and it completely changes the season. I think we're going to see in beach volleyball, you're going to have a lot more. There's a lot more uncertainty on the results in a lot of matches. Madness
is what they call it, and we're definitely going to have our version of some kind of March Madness into that. Duran, my boss, her daughter, saying prime example what you're talking about. Daughter wound up at Hawaii, shortest player to get a scholarship. Yeah, Presley Forbes, shortest player to get a scholarship. And then transferred to FIU. She was on the pair 5 or 6.
Play with Crockett, huh?
Yeah, it's again, and I say good for her. But like you said, where, you know, Hawaii was just too stacked in the defender position. Ty's going to go to the upperclassmen. They're not going to, you know, Presley. In order to take someone's spot, you have to be a down the line better. You know, like for me, like in a mixed martial arts match, sometimes the judges don't want to give you the rub unless you beat. You know, if you have to beat the champion. You know, if it's close, some judges, unless they're just, I don't know, whatever, they're just fair. So that was just one of the prime examples I was telling you about. Back to volleyball, and like you said, 13 champions or whatever out of the teams. The last decade was really the time for MIVA, though, wasn't it?
Oh, for the men's side. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
talking about the female side
Okay.
because there's 300. Men's side is completely different because there's only 40 teams. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but think about
you know.
this: it was the decade of repeat champions. Look at our last
Sure.
10 champions.
well, it helps
Long
when you
Beach
got,
State
you know,
twice, right? Ohio State
Yeah.
twice. That French guy at Alpa was just. You want to talk about
Yeah.
serve to space? I saw. Well, let me do the repeat champions first. Loyola Chicago. Right, one of them had to beat Division II Lewis, so it's pretty good that Lewis got in that
Lewis
large bid.
I feel, and look, I know both those coaches well, and I love Dan Friend, and my heart cracked for him. But man, they had multiple match point opportunities, but when you got two future Olympians you're going against, that was a perfect example of why it sucks. There's only victory for one, and I knew guys on both teams, and they both were everything you want in athletes that play the right way, and that was an epic. I remember watching that match. That was quite the championship.
But think about it: 5 of the last 10 champions are MIVA. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
or
there's
UC
only
Irvine.
40
UC Irvine was repeat champions. My boy Chris Austin set for that team, and then before that was Ohio State again. So, wow, cool, right? But the cool thing about that guy served to space I was talking about was they played Hawaii in the semifinals for their second consecutive title, Ohio State. And somewhere in the middle of the second set, I saw a guy get subbed out, and he sat next to the guy or whatever, and he looked at his partner, and his partner just goes, it's like it's not going to happen. And
Right.
It's so weird when someone's already beaten before the match is over. I mean,
Right.
they had some excitement because Ohio State did show some vulnerabilities in the middle of the season. But then when it was time for them to be on, and it was a tight first set, but then the second set, like you said, some people just cracked the code.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember the name, but the two guys, but I know they looked at each other, and one guy just goes, "We're not winning this. It's not going to happen," And wow, speaking of crack the code, how about Harvard? Remember Harvard took the first set from UCLA. They won EIVA, and then won the first set 25-23. And my girl who went to Harvard sent me a text, and I'm just like, "Shut up! No, I got work to do. Don't bother me, girl. I got work to do."
That's why we play the
And she's like,
games.
"No, seriously, they won the first set." I thought she's putting me on, because if you know. NCAA men's weekend, that Thursday and Saturday, is the busiest weekend in volleyball, indoor and outdoor. The AVP at Huntington is that time. The NCAA championships for beach volleyball is that time. And you have indoor men. So I'm sitting there, I'm at Huntington. I think, I don't know if I was coaching Jeff Samuels and Dave Palm. That was the year after. But she sent me a text. Harvard won the first set. I'm like, man, get out. Go kick rocks, girl. Stop playing, We have an inside bet. That's why. We have this inside joke. I had to wear a Harvard t-shirt a total of 10 times because we made a bet. IPFW played Harvard. And I said, Harvard's not going to beat IPFW. They're not going to. No, it's not. I said, I will wear a shirt. I will buy a Harvard shirt, sleeveless or whatever, and I will wear it as if I went to Harvard. 10, a total of 10 times, and they won. Harvard won 3-0. I was like, okay. Asshole. She got me. Yeah, like you said.
Games.
Yes. Cool, man. Oh, man. What else? Did you, was there something else you wanted to plug before we did our thing?
No, man. I mean, we've been ripping. We're an hour and a half in, so I mean, you lead the dance. I'm more than happy to talk. But no, I appreciate the opportunity, and I think it's good. It's always good to just talk about the sport and different stories and things going on with it. And like I said, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to coach in these tough times, and I don't want anyone to get misunderstood. I just want to make sure we're doing everything the simple things to make sure that this doesn't last longer than it has to, because we ain't talking about the elephant in the room, which is what's going to happen in the spring when high school wants to do tryouts and club is used to having that part of the year.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, how I was talking to a friend of mine that coaches college, and he's the coach for both the men's and women's program. He's like, logistically, like, we don't have enough gym space. And, he's like, my other friend that coaches a head coach at a college, I've got 3 coaches for both teams, and they're going to be going on in the same season. How does that work?
Yeah.
So,
Yep,
I just encourage people, let's not make it us versus them in regards to figuring this out. Let's find that sweet spot. How can we find a way to get our athletes back in a manner that isn't going to elongate this process before we can get and do it safely?
We're not going yet, my man. Hold on. Volleyball here is like a cultural thing, right? Like if you never left South Bay, you would think volleyball is the number one sport in America. So I was very sad for Redondo High School. Like they didn't have a boys season, and they to their credit had their graduation on the beach. So big up to them. Kevin Barnett's son was actually on that team, and he's at I don't know what position he plays, but he's at Santa Barbara. And Kevin Albert said they're paying for it, but even though I don't think it's a full scholarship, come on, we're in the men's scene too long, right? For everyone listening at home, there's only 4.5 scholarships. So, and and with these big rosters, I can't even see anyone getting a full ride unless they're smart and they got some of that money, some of that cheddar cheese. Back in the day when there was only 12-man rosters, you give Jason Oliver, Uvaldo Katz, a full ride. Uvaldo Katz got that scholarship from Jason, by the way.
Man,
Jason had sued him, the NCAA, a right to likeness lawsuit, sealed, and split the difference. Said that they're like, okay, you're allowed to model, but you can't have the scholarship. So they gave it. So they had the money to give to Uvaldo, and cool, man. They made the semifinals. That lefty was cool, man. He was, it might be before your time. He was legit, dude. But that was an interesting point I wanted to make about just the sadness of like take everything you're feeling about volleyball and this and that, multiply it by 5. This is the South Bay. This and their minds. Everyone in the world plays this. Every country. This is probably your first sport.
The only thing I want to say, this is gonna stop. This is gonna go away. This is not permanent, right? And all I can say is I don't mind. Again, I don't want it to stop. My suggestion for the people that are in, if I was hypothetically in a county that wasn't necessarily letting any play, and if I was, let's actually do it locally. Chicago right now, the beaches are not accessible for play, right? If they want to try and get back on the beaches, if I was in that boat, if I needed to do that, I would be going to the city after talking to the health department, and I would ask the health department, what are the things that you would say need to be happening parameters wise if you were going to reopen a beach? And then I would sit with the people running the programming and I would say, how do we create a model that we can show the local department and say, hey, this is what the health department's recommending that would need to happen to be safe, and this is what we can do to put that in place. Like versus, petitions are nice, but it doesn't enact safe planning, standard operating procedure.
Agreed.
And so, sometimes I think some people locally with some of the things that I bring concerns with, they're like, well, the kid's got to be kid. We got to run programming. Let's run programming, but let's make sure that it's not just what's legal. Let's make sure it's what's being, passed down so that again, we're only a year or two away, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You think about what our grandparents had to do. I would much rather have to only play in smaller circles and have to just wash my hands more than storm the beaches in Normandy or leave my family for a couple of years and hopefully come back. So I just hope that
because you're right. This isn't a battle we can win by sheer bravery, my man. Right.
Yeah. And we're so close, it's been a long time. We're starting to be able to do certain things. Let's just do it safely. And then in a year or two, we're going to be right back on the court, and it's going to have that sweet, like, I can't wait till I can high five a teammate. I can't wait till I can hug a teammate. Like I'm a demonstrative player. I love to battle with my teammates. Yeah. And it sucks, but
if you,
positivity is not always about being happy. Positivity is knowing that things are going to get better, and they will.
Your giddy optimism just warmed my cockle. It was right here, my man. If there's any case for like social distancing versus square mile, man, the beach is definitely would work better, which is closed, than the boardwalk or the Strandwich, which is crowded. So I'm just doing simple math that even Democrats and Republicans can agree on. That I've been calling them and Democrips and Rebloodlicans, and on several occasions had to apologize to Crips and Bloods, because they didn't want to be insulted like that. I ain't trying to have them come to my house. But you can't go, because in the beginning of this podcast, I promised I would ask you this question, and I asked other people this question. And for the people saying, oh, he's going to ask the same question again, you could just exit out right now. At what tournament, what match in your teens, or albeit club or high school, did you tell yourself when you left that match, I left that tournament, I think I could do this shit for real. I think I could play. I think I could play college or pro or do something where this is going to dominate my time and I'm going to love it. So on a competitive and not just a passionate level, was there a defining moment for you in a tournament or a match that said, I can play this game on a reel?
There's two I want to talk about, and they kind of tie in too.
Let's do it.
I was an ugly duckling. Like, I played in high school for a very small school, wasn't getting college looks. I had surgery on my foot after high school year. I didn't play for 18 months. I happened I went to a state school, didn't work out, went to a community college. And while I was there in one of my computer science classes, teachers like, get to know the person next to you. It's a girl on the volleyball team. And I'm an awkward 19-year-old. And I'm like, oh, I used to play volleyball. Come to a match. So after the match, bunch of kids just went on the court and they let us kind of goof off and hit the ball. And I don't know what I did. Again, I knew a 4-step approach. I knew how to play. So I hit a ball and the coach was like, hey, do you play? I'm like, I used to in high school. He's like, I'm always looking for managers. So again, like, I'm 19. I'm kind of I'm an introverted extrovert. I like people. I'm kind of shy at the time. And
Starbucks was created for people like you. Go ahead.
So I end up, long story short, I start coaching with Bob Vilsoy at Harper. He recruits me one Wednesday to play with a bunch of his buddies, the 30s and 40s. It's a double B USAV team. So their name is Bada Bing. I play as a 20-year-old on their team. I'm one of the bench guys, but I'm learning from them. Like, they're actually teaching me different things with angles. I'm learning fundamentals. So that is 2005 USAV season. I'm just learning. And then the last tournament was regionals in April. And I'm playing every outdoor place I can. I'm playing every open gym I can. So 2005, there's a preseason tournament. And I'm fired up. I'm like, let's play. You guys been playing a lot? And they're like, oh, we haven't really, family people, the 30s and 40s are doing other stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm like the guy on the team. And all of a sudden, these guys that were smoking me a year before, I start realizing, like, I'm catching them. The second one was so that was when I kind of realized, like, wow, in 1 year, I can, when I actually have some guidance like that, I can make a jump. I went to my first grass tournament. The Luau was a big one here. It was 2005. I'd never seen open level ball. I was pretty sheltered to what good volleyball was. And I'm watching the open final, and I just took third in double B. And these guys they're flying. Like, the hitters are incredible. The setters are dishing butter, cracking jump serves. Everyone's passing it. And I remember I said out loud, like, I don't even know why I play. And Or Sandalak, who's a ref in the area, he's a little older, he's a good friend. Oh, that guy a lot. And he heard me say, I said it out loud to no one, but he heard me. He's like, hey, it's like, I remember these guys when they were your age, just keep working. And 5 years later, I won my first open triples tournament. And one of the guys in the finals that I beat was on that team. So it was like, I just saw that the more I put the time in, that every year I was seeing progress. And so I never set a ceiling. It was never like, I think I can do so. It was every year I'm getting better, and I don't necessarily have a specific goal. Let's see, how far can I go before, what happened in 2014, I tore my labrum. I got a bad opinion, unfortunately. So I had a sponsor. I played a bunch of the AVP qualifiers on the advice that it was just an impingement and there was no chance I needed surgery. There was a tear, and then I had one. So at that point, I just started my program coaching. I thought I had established credibility locally, and I still play, but it doesn't matter to me. I've won a lot of the local tournaments that I set out to win. Didn't make a main draw, but coaching Kristen, who's 27, and she really enjoys it. And my coaches are 22, and in 1 year they went from not being able to, they'd never played beach, and now they're actually playing with some of the top guys in Chicago. It's fun to coach, and it's easier on the joints.
It really is. I turned 50 last week.
Belated happy birthday again.
Yeah, man. I really wish I got into this 35. I wish I got out of indoor, like, at least closer around the same time Reed Pretty did,
Sure.
Because the way we train for indoor, like the high impact, the hard landing and all that stuff. Not I'm not even talking about the match, just training to prepare for a match. It was just grueling, unforgiving on the body, especially people who weren't light. Like, I always walk around, I walk around 205. Okay. I'm ex-military. The lightest I've been in after boot camp was 199. Okay. And they said that was still 4 pounds over, and you could see my hip bones. Okay. I look like everywhere I walk, I look like I I looked like I was, cheap, but like a supermodel. So man, I love this game. I fell in love with this game.
Yeah.
Moving out here made me fall in love with this game. And these guys, big up to John, giving me the shot. Duran, Duncan Avery, name you don't hear of, but you locally, he's the man. Excuse me. Redondo head coach, in a pretty good club called Evolution. That's us. So big up to those guys. Todd Rogers always giving me the time to talk for interviews when I was doing the beat for Volleyball 1-on-1. He was run by Andor July, South African guy, who's very well known. So Andor gave me a Doran because he's traveling, right, for the clinics, but I go to the big events and I do the interviews. He says just top players only, and I'm like, Nick, thank you. Taylor, you're about to board the plane. You're at boarding. You're sitting there, not boarding the plane. You give me the 20 minutes on the phone. My man, my dude. So
sure.
And last but not least, thank guys like you for coming on, because this is the whole reason I did a podcast like this. I started as a volleyball cast, but I wanted interesting people, and my major was in college is theater. So I'm gonna have theater performers, I'm gonna have musicians, I'm gonna have film actors. Jason Olive, he's on Tyler Perry's House of Pain, this and that. So thank you for making this possible, because guests like you who generate the interest of people that don't play the sport. This is just a circle jerk of how many people can know us. We can go another hour on that, but I really, really appreciate you coming on, man. This is boss. Okay.
Anytime you're desperate for a guest, you call me up. I can talk ball all day with you. So thanks for having me. I
My
appreciate
man,
it. It's good to have people.
You just said it.
We need people doing it. We need people to be spreading the word and building personalities, and you're giving a lot of people that opportunity, and you're leaving people better than you found them. So thanks for what you do.
Todd Sloan says, JD, you look solid for an upcoming 50, man. Don't sell yourself short.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe people wouldn't believe if we tried to sign up for the dyno, they wouldn't. They'd be like, "There's no way."
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just trying to protect my face. Today, you see, it's a little red. I didn't protect myself this morning, but I'm not trying to get no hot dog tan. You know what I mean? Like you look at Jay Gibb, right? His nutrition's off the page and he shares ideas, but man, years of the sun taking it to his face. Like Jay Gibb's 40, and I'm 50, but I ain't trying to disrespect him. I'm the one that looks like I'm 40, and he's the one that looks like he's 50 on that one. So,
man,
but can't mess with that guy's nutrition. Sorry.
Yeah, Nygaard came to town and he did a clinic in 2010, and he had just had his biopsy on his arm, and he showed all of us. Yeah. And that was when it I was 25 at the time, and that's when I was like, you know what? Don't get me wrong, I don't want to be. I get super transparent. I got kind of a olive complexion. I've got a liver thing, so sometimes I get the kind of jaundicey, so the tan kind of masks that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So
next guy in the Twilight
but at the
movies.
same time, you don't want to mess with that type of stuff. So I tried to, wear long sleeves when I could. I like to compete. I didn't like wearing stuff, but anytime I was off and using the sunscreen. So
awesome. All right, I'm gonna run my music, but stick around after the show, okay? I just want to conclude this. Listen, that is the episode. This is episode 48 of the Option Podcast. For all of you at home, for all of you on your iPhones waiting to get into a restaurant watching this, for all of you on your iPads because you're walking around the house watching this, for all of you people on your desktop, who runs the world? Old school from my man, Bryan McDermand. I am Jason DeBias. This is episode 48, and we say, we're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.